So, Bucks just swept Miami. Bucks just swept Miami. And it don't shock me, right? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, Tyler Hero, good. Look, Tyler Hero's in his second year. Tyler Hero is still young. Tyler Hero will still improve. But let's be honest. How are you supposed to top Drew, Chris Middleton, and Giannis? Like, I didn't even try to do that on purpose in that rhyme. But that's what you got to see every game. And people are like, well, he shot like 20 some percent for the series and 30 some percent for three. I mean, the nigga got Drew on him all game. What the fuck is he supposed to do? I'm just saying. But I don't want to talk too much about that game, right? I'm mentioning this because there's something I've been preaching about, and I guess you could call it my basketball philosophy. And it's evident and apparent when I watch teams win playoff games. So, for those of you who don't know, my philosophy relies on two things: coming up with a style that fits the players that you have, and being flexible outside of that, right? What do I mean by that? You as a coach can come in and have your own philosophy and style and you can play it that way. Or you can figure out what works best for your team and do that, right? And you may say, well, if you don't know what you're coaching, how can coach the players? My thing is sometimes that shit just works organically. Sometimes you might come in and want to play one way, but your players are kicking it. Like look, D'Antoni in Phoenix. If you go look and find the video, he said he came in and seen them boys running, and that's what he decided to do. And and there's another video out there when they're talking about that Phoenix team when he was like sometimes he would call plays and Nash wouldn't run the plays. They just go out there and wing it. And what I mean by, my statement earlier is like that. Sometimes you just got to get the right players in the right places and they just kind of form the system themselves. Not saying Steve Nash didn't form the system, even though they kind of did, but what I'm saying is the guys work themselves to what they need to do by virtue of just, being existing together. So let's talk about the Pelicans. And we're going to assume Lonzo is back next year, right? Because nothing has changed at the moment. If you go look at the Pelicans this year, and you go look at even Miami that got swept, Miami was more consistent. And even though they got swept, you can tell there's a gap between what Miami is and what the Pelicans are. But to my point of philosophy, the teams that are going to have the most success are going to have an identity for themselves, and they're going to be able to play you out of your identity. When we talk about championship level teams, adjustments. Always got to be able to make adjustments. So if you're a team that wants to play fast and you want to make the other team play up at your pace, great. But can you play in the slower pace too and still be effective? If all you can do is play fast, great. When you run into teams that can't take you out of it, but what happens if you go through, even in college, let's say you make it all the way to the championship game, and the other team has the players or the tools to take you out of your offense? Then what? I don't think a team should be like, yes, master your one thing, but be able to play other ways. How does this relate to the Pelicans? I have preached and hammered this for as long as I can remember on this channel. You got to be able to play in various different ways. Sure, this team wants to get up and down. It benefits Zion, it benefits Zoe, it benefits BI, it benefits Nikhil, Kira, Jackson Hayes, yada yada, going on, it just works for them. Okay, they inherently want to play fast. But even still, can you adjust to play slow? That's the issue with the Pelicans. Now, I'm not saying that's what their philosophy was this year, but their inability to be versatile is a problem. They just don't have the requisite parts to do enough. Like, people are going to talk about, well, Lonzo he should have been a two guard, he should have been 3D. Here's the thing going forward. Lonzo has the confidence now that I can play the point guard and I can play the shooting guard. I done did both. So it doesn't matter where you put me at either of those positions on the court, I'm going to still do my thing. Okay, let me give you LeBron. LeBron can play point guard, he can play small forward, he can play power forward. Okay? KD technically, if I'm going to be honest with you, KD can play all 5 positions. Yes, he can even play point guard. And he don't need to be a facilitator at the point guard. He would just be a scorer. But you can literally put KD at the 1 and put shooters around him and then tell him, pick your poison. Because he can make all the passes necessary. Okay? Kawhi could technically play the 1 through 3. He don't want to play the 1, and he's not as skilled at the 1. But he can. So, and I'm naming better players. AD can pretty much play, I'd say 3 through 5, but I think in certain instances you could probably even put him at the 2. Because hell, that's what he was most of his life, was like a 2 guard or 1 guard. So he still has some of that skill set with his handles and other things. You wouldn't necessarily want to optimize him there, but he could do it. And James Harden could play the 1 or the 2. I could keep naming guys, right? They're versatile. You can put them in different positions and they can find success, right? Zion being point, Zion ain't a bad thing, and I've always said that it's not a bad thing. On some occasions, you can put him at the point guard, and that'll work, especially if you got a mismatch you can exploit. Then other times, you're going to want him to play the 4. And why? Because there'll be certain mismatches you want to exploit or certain things you want to do. Being versatile is fine, okay? I can play the 1, the 2, the 3, or the 4. Okay, that kind of versatility is important. Now, when I look at a team like the Lakers' usual lineup is KCP, LeBron, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, AD, the big, and I really don't remember who the other guard is. It is escaping my mind. Point being, the Lakers, and I ain't even include the bench yet, the Lakers starting 5 is really good. If we start getting into the bench, Kyle Kuzma, it was Dennis Schroeder, that's who it was. Kyle Kuzma, Caruso, Drummond, Gasol, right? The thing that the Lakers can do, number one, they're a defensive team. They're a very good defensive team. Especially with older guys, for them to be that good defensively is a testament to their talent and their coaching and their discipline. But the thing about them is they can beat you in many different ways. You want to play small ball? We can play small ball, 80 at the 5, LeBron at the 4. If you want to throw Kuzma in at the 3 and put like Dennis Schroeder at the 1 to keep KCP, fine. We just went small. Okay, now what? Okay, you want to play big? All right, we're going to have Gasol or Drummond. We're going to have AD, LeBron, and then you could play Kuzma at the 2 and whoever the fuck else you want to play at the 1. At that point, it won't even fucking matter. Now you got to try to get rebounds on us. Now what? We big. What you going to do? Okay, if you want to play shooters, they got enough guys that they can put out there and space the floor and put LeBron at the point guard. And AD can play the 5 or any other position necessary. He can fill in the gaps. Okay? Versatility. They can match up. Yes, they have that thing that they do well. But they can sit there and say, okay, this ain't working. What can we do to get ourselves in a better situation to win this game? Championship level teams had that level of versatility. Even Golden State, prior to KD and even after KD, yes, they always had the death lineup. And what they ultimately wanted to do is they wanted to just be so oppressive with their backcourt, which is the greatest shooting backcourt in NBA history, that you had to come out of your thing to play their style of ball. And if they made you do it, you lost. You just lost. It is what it is. But they had enough to where they could just play flexibly. Ultimately, yes, they want to play Steph, Clay, Iguodala, Draymond, and KD. That's what they want to run. But if they wanted to put JaVale McGee out there and Sean Livingston, and they want to go a little bigger, they could do that. You know what I'm saying? They had multiple ways to play you, but not just that. That depth lineup could play multiple ways. It didn't matter. If you want to play small, it didn't matter to them. They could even take you out of being big, and they don't have to be big because they had everything else they needed to do. They could play defensively. They literally, that lineup was so flexible. There was really not many options, and even if you took KD away, they still had golly, what's the guy's name? He's in Sacramento, right? Harrison Barnes. They were still good. So the point is, these teams that are going to be championship level monsters are going to have versatility. Like, truth be told, Denver probably should beat Portland because they got more versatility. And straight up, if they really wanted to, they could just size them to death. Like, we just going to put bodies out there, you're not going to do anything with us. Even without Jamal Murray, which is a testament to how well they're built and how well they're coached. Okay? The Lakers should beat Phoenix, but there's some other things at work here. But I think Phoenix at this point, with a hobbled Chris Paul, I don't think they're going to pull it off. Okay? To the Giannis and Miami thing, they could play multiple ways, but they just straight up oppressed them. They was just better, and sometimes that happens. Miami they don't have a lot of versatility. They just kind of stuck. They just really play one way, and they should be able to play multiple ways, but they can't do it because they got the wrong mix of young and old, and they don't have the right pieces. So they really didn't have what they needed to just go at them and kill them like they did last year. I think that was one of the benefits of Miami is last year they caught a couple of breaks because they missed some matchups that they didn't want to match up with. But I think at the end of the day, they didn't have that thing collectively that they had last year. They lost a lot of pieces this year, and I think missing Vic Oladipo hurt them in the long run. I think he would have been a difference maker in this game or in this series. The result might have still been the same, but maybe it's 4-2 instead of a sweep. But the point is versatility, man. If another team could come in and take you out of what you're doing, fine. But can you play their game and beat them at their game? Can you play or adjust to another style of game that counters their game? It's always going to be about the pieces and their ability to work, seamlessly together. So when we talk about the duo, which is who the Pelicans are building around, is Zion and Bi. Okay, that's one thing. If you like me and want to include Lonzo and like Josh Hart, fine. Or if you want to just include Lonzo and make it a trio, fine. Whatever. But what's going to be their style of play? If you're going to build around this team, what's their style of play? And what can someone do to take them out of it? And if they take them out of it, can they do something else? So when you took the Pelicans out of what they wanted to do this year, could they adapt? The answer is no. So, like I've also told you guys before, Stan didn't have what he wanted this year, and Stan has none of this past years before he got here in the draft has no bearing on him because he didn't pick the guys. And he even said at the press conference, look, those guys are working the draft. I have no input on this. They was like, yes, they asked me about certain guys and I gave them my opinion, but outside of that, I'm not picking. This is just strictly what they're doing because they've been here longer and I'm getting here late. So, no, Kira, he ain't got nothing over there. But the guys coming in, you can critique him for. But having said that, when you look at the way he wants to play, he don't have what he needed. Period. And we're gonna put aside the fact that certain Pelicans and stuff don't like him. Just put that to the side for a minute. If you can't play this, if you can't win in the style of ball you want to play, you're a bad team. But you got to at least start there. You got to be able to win in the style of ball you want to play, number one. Then you got to be able to adjust. What were the Pelicans' adjustments this season? What could they do? If a team put a whole bunch of size out there, who could they put out there to counter? You know, that's the issue with the Pelicans at large. They do not have the pieces to really do much of anything well. Even if they would have put Lonzo at point guard and had him run point guard all year, I'm going to tell y'all right now, they probably wouldn't have got any better as far as positioning. Like, they would have still been like the 11th seed. I'm just going to be real with y'all. There was nothing they could do. They just don't have the parts. They were better built last year, but they still didn't have the parts last year either for what Gentry wanted to do, which this is becoming a common trend. If you don't start getting the parts that you need, it's not going to work. It's not going to move. Having said that, shout out to Samuel Stans, I believe is his name. Love the dude. I made a post on Twitter with several tweets, and I was just talking about how versatile teams have to be. And he talked about DeAndre Hunter and Sadiq Bey. DeAndre Hunter is putting it on Detroit in the playoffs, right? If you wanted to go into Zion as the point, and we're going to put Lonzo aside, you would have needed Sadiq Bey's and DeAndre Hunter's. Those guys fit what you want to do. And they give you versatility, right? And if you guys follow me, usually the guys that I like are versatile. Like, we could go down the list. Victor Oladipo, versatile. He could play the one or the two. He could be a point guard or he could be a shooting guard. He could do both, right? I like guys like that. Jonathan Isaac, he could pretty much play one. He could play not the one. He could play the 3, the 4, and in some cases the 5, right? But preferably you want him at the 3 or the 4. Let's see. I'm trying to think of some other players real quick. I like AD. KP for my Mavs. I've always loved KP. KP, I felt like could play the 4 or the 5, and I think in some places or some lineups you could maybe probably run him at the 3. Truthfully. But, you know, I like guys you can put around in different places and different positions and you still have something in their skill set that's effective. You know, even when I look at guys like KD, like I mentioned, KD can play all 5 positions, you know, and he'll be good. You know, LeBron can play all 5, and I'm not a LeBron fan, but he is the most balanced, versatile athlete in league history. I don't think there's another athlete that you could say could play pretty much when he was in his prime. He could kind of play the 5. I wouldn't want him there, but he could play all 5 if you really wanted him to. And he's a walking mismatch. Like, he can do anything and everything you need him to do. So when I talk about building teams, right, and an identity, let me give it to you this way. If you don't know what you're trying to do, you don't know the parts or the pieces you need. Now, last year they were doing one thing, and they were kind of limited because Zion was hurt. This year, it was intent to see what point Zion looked like. The stats bear it out. You guys have to listen. Whatever your personal feelings is nothing to do with the front office. What they wanted to see is if that could work. The stats showed that when they did point Zion, they were effective. Okay? And keep in mind, point Zion didn't have the weapons he needed. And they were still effective. So, logically, if they get the weapons and the pieces they need for it, it's going to be even better. And you're going to see it show up in the win column and not the loss column. So, if your goal was to see what that is and you're going forward, you're going to build this team, everything they're going to do going forward is going to be for point Zion. I'm telling you. And you can watch it. There was a story that came out where they said they're trying to shop Bledsoe and Steven Adams this offseason. They're going to try to get rid of them. Ding! That tells me they're looking to put Jackson Hayes in their starting lineup permanently. And he gained a lot of weight. He gained a lot of weight from year 1 to year 2. Year 3, he should be bulkier. And because he's shown that jump, he should be even better next year. I expect Jackson Hayes to be something like a 13-9 guy. Maybe even 13-10. And truthfully, the way he was shooting, you might have what you need at the 5 going forward. And I know a lot of people didn't like the Jackson Hayes pick. I was kind of on the fence because, like I said, I don't watch college, so I don't know. But my thing was always, can the guy shoot? If he can shoot it, first of all, if you're an athlete, great. But if you can knock it down, that's all you need. We've been talking about Miles Turner. Why would you need Miles Turner if you could get Jackson Hayes to be Miles Turner? And he can shot block, and he can run the floor, and he can shoot. So that pick in particular won't be bad. Now, the only difference is you could have had DeAndre Hunter instead of him and now, and you would have got bigger dividends from DeAndre Hunter up front. But Jackson Hayes got the potential to possibly have a higher ceiling. And if that's what they're banking on, Griffin's going to look better in the future because of the Jackson Hayes pick. Now, I'm not trying to, massage his nuts with this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, as far as the look up of the team, if they're looking to move Steven Adams, Jackson Hayes is probably getting elevated. Now, if they're looking to move Steven Adams to Bledsoe, that's $35 million coming off the books. If you wanted to pay Zoe $22 million, you could do it. And then you'd still have a good $12 million left. And you go get something else. And I'm trying to think. I think if they have Zion, they could go over the limit when they re-sign him. So they better have their core set up. And by core, I mean everything else not including Zion and B.I. Your guys coming off the bench, yada, yada, yada. Because if you decide to keep Zoe, you're going to be cash strapped. And they ain't shown you shit together yet. And what I mean by they ain't shown you shit is they haven't gotten to the playoffs. If they got into the playoffs this year, you would have to think about them and say, okay, they're close. And signing Lonzo might become more of a priority. But with that, it's like, well, shit, we ain't get in there with Lonzo. Might as well go foot deep in the point Zion and make that work. The stats bear it out. So they're justified in what they're trying to do. So, again, if we assume Lonzo ain't on this team, you just got Zion, Null, B.I., and Hayes, think about that. If you're going to run a team and you're going to go point Zion and this is what you're going to do, what other kind of guy or player do you need to make that work? Okay, can they shoot a good percentage from 3? If we assume the Jackson Hayes jump shooting from 3 is a thing and could be there, he could shoot mid-ranges too, and they drill that with him this offseason, he can start knocking those down. He's going to add space. If he's adding space, that benefits Null, B.I., and Zion. Think about it. What kind of player would you need to round that out if you're going to play point Zion? Now, if we put that to the side, can that group be versatile? Can you put them in different positions in different places and they win? That's the question. And I think personally, until one of those two, Zion or B.I., can play defense consistently and it's a priority for them, until you get that, I think there's a cap on this team. Unless they're getting to the point where they're putting up 130 points a game and they're just being able to just beat you with points. That's the thing. If you're going to sacrifice defense, you got to have points. You can't have lulls of no points. You got to get points on the board constantly. If you get points on the board constantly, you can match teams when they're scoring on you defensively because you're bad. It's going to put a lot of pressure on you, but you can do it. You're more than capable of doing it. So that's the thing for me. Let me just be frank. The Pelicans, in terms of the pieces, if they decide to go this route, let's just assume they can get off the Bledsoe and the Adams contract. If you're going to play that group that I mentioned, no Lonzo, you just need a guy that can come in and play between the 3 and the 4 that can knock down shots. And his priority is defense. You don't need necessarily to be a rookie unless he's like a senior. a 4-year player in college. That'll help you because he'll be coming in, he's got experience, yada, yada, yada. So, by the way, Villanova guys typically are ready. Shouts out to Josh Hart. Them Villanova guys tend to be they get coached up over there. I don't know what it is, but them guys from Villanova seem to always come in and know how to play basketball. So I'd be looking to see if Villanova had something. If we're gonna draft a player. But anywho, you still got Kira off the bench. The bench is the other thing. The bench is what's gonna help you with your versatility. Pelicans bench was garbage, just straight up. No, I can't be kind about it. They were terrible. If whatever you're gonna do, you got to round out your bench, right? I think ultimately for the Pelicans, they're better served to get rid of Lonzo Bledsoe and Steven Adams, and I think because of the amount of money they would save, it would give them more money to round out their bench. And even if you got to overpay a couple of guys on the bench, but because here's the thing, regardless, you're gonna have Bi or Zion in whatever your bench is. So, and let's just say they bring back Willie Hernangomez. So you got a 5. You got Zion or Bi, and then you got Willie Hernangomez and you got Kira off the bench. You just need 2 other guys, okay? And I'm pretty sure there's a veteran out there. I'm just gonna throw a name out there like Jay Crowder. I'm not saying that's a guy you go get. I'm not saying that guy's available, but you can probably go get a guy like that or Trevor Ariza off the bench, someone with some tenacity. Someone who's just gonna go out there, vet that they're gonna listen to. He's gonna hold these guys accountable on the court. You need guys like that. You start getting a team together. You do that, and you're like, okay, this team could do something. Okay, you expect Zion to be better. You expect Zion to have more than just I can only score in the paint. If he projects higher and he can shoot mid ranges, and that spot up jump shot is more like a 36-35%, you own to something. You own to something. And if Bi commits on the defensive end, you're really on to something. Okay? But versatility. Can these guys play different styles of ball? That's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Yes, your own identity in the half court. Gotcha. But, and let me say this as it pertains to Stan. If Stan gets the pieces he wants, keep in mind, Najee Marshall, they just signed him, so they're going to have him and Didi Louzada. Okay? Which, is Diddy a point guard? If so, they don't necessarily need to get anyone else. They got a Zoe replacement. But, if Stan gets his guys and they start winning, let's just say halfway through the season, the Pelicans are like, we should be back to 82-game season. We won't even give them half. Let's just say a third of the way through. So like 26 games in. Let's just say they like 18-8. All that bullshit that they got, winning solves a lot of that. Bi, Zion, or whoever else, if they 18-8 and they beating teams and they're looking dominant, you can't get mad at Stan no more because now you're winning. And now it's going to be like, okay, method to the madness, we winning. All right, Stan, we got you. So, like I said in my other video, that's something to pay attention to. I'm not sure how that's going to roll. There was the reports that they could fire him. I don't know what the Pels are thinking. But I am saying, ultimately, if you're going to be a playoff team, you got to be able to play your style of ball, have your identity, and you got to be able to flex to another style of ball if need be to counter what the defense is doing. If you can't do that, there's nothing you can do. Just being blunt. So, if you don't believe me, just watch the teams in the playoffs. When they were talking about Phoenix versus the Lakers the other night, it was just like they don't have the bench. They don't have bodies. And if all you can do is one thing, and once that one thing gets figured out, you don't have anything else. Good game. Lakers are hurt. But they got bodies. And if you got bodies and you got versatility, you can compensate in certain ways. LeBron gonna be playing on a hurt ankle the entire time and they still winning. Clippers made some adjustments against the Mavs. They got a win last night. Played Rondo more than Pat Bev. Played man. Ibaka didn't play that game. They got a win. And both of their guys came up to play. Ty Lue is known for making adjustments. Okay? What was Miami's adjustments? What could they do? Nothing. And that's going to be the theme of these playoffs. What adjustments could your team make? And execute. That's the other part. Can't just make the adjustments. You got to be able to execute. If you can't make an adjustment and execute the adjustment, you're not going to win games. Not in the playoffs. But anyway, that's all I got for y'all. Y'all have a good one. Peace.